Senator, do you have a moment? Do you have just one moment? Were you the confidential witness, Senator? Just 1 minute.
Well, that was State Senator Terry Link back in 2019 as he was going into a committee hearing at the State House after it was reported by media out of Chicago that he was the individual wearing a wire helping the FBI snag former state representative Louis Arroyo in a bribery scheme stemming from sweepstake machines, of all things. Welcome back, Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. And there's another corruption case going on in Chicago, this time dealing with a businessman, James Weiss, who is facing charges of bribing former state lawmakers to try to get favorable legislation for sweepstakes machines, which are similar to video gambling machines, but instead of paying out dollars, it pays out like, hey, you want a computer or something like that. I'm not sure how it all works. But this was a pretty hot issue, especially when it comes to the FBI arresting individuals and the Department of Justice prosecuting individuals at the State House. Of course, earlier this year, we had the ComEd 4 trial. That was the case circulating around former House Speaker Michael Madigan and corruption charges, alleging that the utility ComEd gave little to do nothing jobs to Madigan Associates in exchange for favorable legislation for the utility. All of this came out back in the summer of 2020, but you had the ComEd 4 trial where you got guilty verdicts for 4 individuals, a former utility official and 3 lobbyists, one of those lobbyists being a close confidant of Mike Madigan. Madigan pleaded not guilty, faces 22 counts in this case next spring. So that's going to be a pretty bombshell case if indeed there's no plea deal or anything that changes between now and then. But this new case, James Weiss, he's facing charges that he bribed 2 state lawmakers, one being Louis Arroyo and the other one being Terry Link. But Terry Link, on the witness stand yesterday, according to Chicago media, acknowledging that indeed he was one of the sources in this collection of information working with the Department of Justice. So he testified to that effect, despite telling media that he was not involved in this. So flashing back here, of course, we heard the 2019 tape of him walking into the committee room, not wanting to answer any questions about it, and it's just interesting to hear that again.
Senator, do you have a moment? Do you have just one moment?
You'll talk to you afterwards.
Yeah, talk to us afterwards.
Were you the confidential witness, Senator? Just 1 minute.
Yeah, talk to us afterwards, he said. And then afterwards, he did indeed talk to us. And it was very brief. It was a gaggle walking down the hallways at the Capitol. And you had reporters from all different media outlets. I had my camera and microphone out walking backwards in front of Link with all kinds of other microphones surrounding him. And it was interesting to see just how he responded to the questions of the reporting that was done, indicating that he was this individual wearing a wire, snagging State Representative Louis Arroyo, handing out bribes. And pretty big story. Here's Terry Link again from 2019 when he denied that he was the individual wearing that wire.
The public's not bothering me. I'm getting emails from all of my constituents, very happy with me. Stick in there, fight, do whatever. And so, they're not mad at me, and that's who I don't represent you. I represent them.
Senator, are you saying you did not wear a wire?
Why don't you ask them where they got their source? Why don't you ask them?
You're saying they're both.
Why don't you?
Are you denying?
Why don't try? Hey, I've been around a long time. I know how people like twist my words. I'm not going to twist the word. I'm not going to twist my words.
And he goes off into a hallway. So that was from 2019, and here we are now. In 2023, this trial going on against a businessman accused of bribing former state lawmakers, and indeed Terry Link testifying that he was the individual wearing that wire. Link, 76, according to the Tribune, star prosecutor witness in the case against James Weiss, the son-in-law of former Cook County Democratic boss Joseph Barrios, accused of agreeing to pay bribes to Arroyo and Link. Link appeared in the federal courtroom, took an added spectacle since the Vernon Hills Democrat vehemently denied reports that he was cooperating with federal prosecutors as Senator A in the documents that were used to charge former state representative Louis Arroyo. But on the stand, he told the jury that he started cooperating with the FBI and was confronted by the FBI after income tax evasion allegations. Link, he was on the committee that dealt with gambling issues at the State House, and obviously has had some power in directing what legislation would go where. But now he's pleaded guilty to tax charges and is hoping that by breaking his silence here, he can have some leniency. But in testimony, Link said he was adamantly opposed to sweepstake machines being added to the bill because they didn't want to be regulated and taxed the same as slot machines and other instances of regulation from the gaming board. Can you take things at face value from legislators at the State House when they tell you stuff? And just to flashback again, it's remarkable to hear the questions and Link's response to him being the person who wore a wire, Senator A, who wore a wire capturing a bribe exchange between himself and Louis Arroyo.
Not the public's not bothering me. I'm getting emails from all of my constituents, very happy with me. Stick in there, fight, do whatever. And so, they're not mad at me, and that's who I don't represent you. I represent them.
Senator, are you saying you did not wear a wire?
Why don't you ask them where they got their source? Why don't you ask them?
You're saying they're both.
Why don't you?
Are you denying?
Don't try. Hey, I've been around a long time. I know how people like twist my words. I'm not going to twist the word. I'm not going to twist my words.
Just another day at the Illinois State House back in 2019. Listen, I've been there when the FBI showed up and taken scores of boxes out of former state senators' offices. It's fascinating being on a stakeout, waiting for them to come out with boxes so you can get that picture and ask them if they want to provide any comment. Obviously, they wouldn't provide any comment, but how do we get a hold of this? How do we, instead of having to wait 4 or 5 years to actually have some clarity as to what's going on here, how do we get a hold of this? Somebody suggested earlier, maybe we make lawmakers wear body cameras. Well, that was proposed by State Representative John Cabello when he was a state representative several years ago. Now he's back in the State House. Maybe that's something else we could have a conversation about. But 217-629-7970. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Greg, you've had some Forrest Gump moments there, haven't you?
It's a wild time at the Illinois State House. Asking Mike Madigan what it's like to be caught on surreptitious recordings back in 2019, and him saying that it's a cruel world we live in, or it's a tough world, I think he says. But it's quite a ride.
I've ridden elevators with the guy with my job being at the Capitol a lot, and very stoic man. But hey, I will say, back when Blagojevich, I was doing a pickup there that night. And at the Capitol, the night that they removed his picture from the hallway, and I walk in and there's CNN and MSNBC, but I've got a job to do. And so I knew one of the security guards, of course, from every night. And he said, "You stand right by me, kid. You're going to watch history right now." And I got to stand right there as they literally took a drill and took his picture off and put up Pat Quinn.
Wow. Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. And we'll see another portrait display going up. Former Governor Bruce Rauner is going to be having his portrait displayed in the Hall of Governors at the Illinois State Capitol. But you're right, Blagojevich's portrait was taken down after he was convicted of some wrongdoing. Later, though, he was, his sentence was commuted by former President Donald Trump. It really is Forrest Gump type of moments at the State House. It's never a dull moment. That's for darn sure.